Hi everyone, it's your girl Desiree and I'm back with another video. And in this video, I want to talk about standing on what you said in 2023. I feel like so often we are nervous to stand on what we said. And this is something that I've been working on a lot in my life, but I really want to tap into this more in this new year of 2023 because it is so important. So make sure you stay tuned about that. So I want to talk about basically being firm in your beliefs. I believe that when we learn to be firm in our beliefs and the things that we really stand on, it's easier for us to stand on the things that we say. When we are not sure about what we really believe or we're not really firm on it, we tend to waver, with what we believe. Especially in this day and age where there's so many different beliefs, there's so many different voices out there. So I believe that when we become more firm in what our beliefs are, religious beliefs, political beliefs, beliefs when it comes to family, marriage, friendships, business, just ideology, just different things in general, it's easier for us to, I said what I said because I know that this is what I believe and I'm not going to waver on that. So I believe that that's very important, is really working on learning to be really firm on those things and really stand on it. And it doesn't mean that our beliefs may not change over time, but even then we don't want to be wavering too much. We want to be firm in what we believe, and we can evolve and expound on that as we mature and develop day by day. Another thing is also to be more selective with what you say, who you say it to, and when you say it. Sometimes it's not necessarily what we say as well. Sometimes it's also how we say it. But even when it comes to like certain topics, like there are some people who are very sensitive and then there are people who are not very sensitive. So you can share your views with them and they're not going to take it personal like it's a slight towards them, or it's like you trying to throw shade, or like other things that people make assumptions about. Like they will hear what you have to say, and even if they don't agree with it, they're like, okay, that's your views. And they may even laugh about it, or they may be like, okay, or they may just listen, or they may just respond or whatever, because they don't take things personal unless it's something directed towards them. They don't take it personal and they don't assume. And if they are unsure, they'll ask a question or they'll communicate and say, hey, what did you mean by that? Or I don't really like that, or that's kind of strange, and they'll have a dialogue about it. Like they're not those type of people that are gonna like run off and be extremely offended and hostile about it, because they have the ability to separate themselves and come out of themselves and out of their flesh and see things from a deeper perspective, you know what I mean? So you kind of have to know who you're communicating with, and also the timing. Like sometimes people may not be in a good mood, or they may not they may be going through some stuff or whatever. So that's another thing. And then also like what I mentioned about like basically who you say stuff to. Like sometimes it could be like on social media, for example, and on social media sometimes it's hard for people to get like the context of what you're saying, especially if it's in text. They may not get the tone, but even if your voice is being heard, like in this context, they still may not understand because they don't really know you. That's another thing too. Like you have to also sometimes have certain topics with people that know you. Like if I'm having a conversation with people who've known me since I was a child, even if they don't like something that I'm saying, they're not going to automatically assume that I'm like being nasty, or I'm just saying something out of spite, because they know how I am. They know that I can be controversial. They know that I'm a free thinker. I question things. They know that I'm very passionate about certain topics. They know that there are certain topics that I talk about they don't agree with, because I can be pretty out there sometimes with how I see things, and they don't take it personal because they've known me all my life, but maybe somebody who's just recently met me, or somebody who hasn't actually taken the time to get to know me in all of my context, they will hear something that I say and take it personal, even though it was not personal. So this is why it's important to be more selective with who you say stuff to, when you say it, and basically what you say. And I believe that when we're more selective with that and we're saying things in a more safe environment, then we can really stand on what we said. But if you are in a situation where like you're on social media and that is what your calling is, for you to share and talk about certain topics that are controversial, then you're going to have to be somebody that really grows thick skin, because no matter how you say things and no matter when you say it, people are still going to be offended, because that's how people are when it comes to controversial topics. Like, even though none of it is about them in particular, because how could it be about them? You don't even know these people personally. You're just talking about, I don't know, marriage and family and children or whatever it is, right? And maybe you have certain views that are controversial and they start getting angry at you and hostile at you, and it's like, how you gonna get angry and hostile at her or him when they don't even know you? It's not about you. But once again, a lot of people, they take things very personal, like it's a slight towards them, even though the topic isn't even about them in particular. So, I mean, it is what it is. You can't please everybody, but I do believe that there are certain contexts where being more selective will benefit you. But when you can't do anything about it, you just gotta have to learn how to grow thick skin and also protect your peace, as well, because some people are just not going to want to be at peace. They're always going to want to pick apart and always find fault with everything that you say, even if you didn't mean anything by it. Even if you, like I said, it wasn't even personal towards them, they'll still find a way to take it personal. So there's nothing you can do about that as well. I also want to say too is that, if you feel led to apologize for things that you said, then apologize. Don't make anybody bully you into apologizing. You want your apology to be genuine, but at the same time, if you feel led to apologize, I do believe that that is a good thing. And sometimes you're not necessarily apologizing always for what you said. Sometimes it's the energy that was behind what you said. Like, there are times when I've had people get upset with me for things that I said, and I think back, like, I still stand on what I said. Like, I don't believe, I don't know, for example, I don't believe that, I'm trying to think of something. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. Or, for example, I don't believe that it would be wise for me to have a child that I'm not financially, mentally, emotionally, and physically and spiritually ready to have a child. I don't believe that's wise, and we could be having a debate on that. Maybe they get offended by something that I say. I would still stand on what I said because that is something that I feel very strongly about. But maybe the way that I said it, or maybe something else that I added on, was offensive to them. So I will apologize about that. So you won't always necessarily have to apologize for exactly what you said, because that's what you believe. That's what you believe. And nobody should have to bully you out of that just because they're offended by it. That's their choice to be offended by something that, once again, like I said, had nothing to do with them, because you weren't talking about them. You were talking about your own views on having children and being mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually ready before you have kids. If they want to be offended by that, that's their choice. You know what I mean? Like, it has nothing to do with them. But you can also apologize maybe if your energy was off, or if your tone was off, or maybe if you brought up the topic at the wrong time, you know what I mean? Like, things like that. So whatever you feel led to, I don't think there's anything wrong with apologizing. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go back on what you said, because there are times when I did that and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I'm like, why did I say that? I should have still stood on what I said, because that's what I believe. Yes, I apologize for the energy that I had, or I apologize for the tone I had, or maybe I added some extra things in there that I could have been left out. Maybe I had some poor taste in reading the room or whatever it was, but I still stand on what I said, so, and my beliefs. So I think that it's really important to be clear too before you apologize, because sometimes we can apologize and go back on things that we said, but that goes back to being firm on your beliefs. So yeah. Speaking of bullying, another thing is, do not allow people to bully you into basically going back on your convictions when you say things, right? So do not allow people to bully you or put fear in you, especially when it comes to publicly talking about things, because sometimes, like, people will become so hostile. Like, I remember I was having a conversation, I think it was yesterday, about like how when it comes to like Nicki Minaj fans, like how I was learning, and I already knew this, but I just wasn't aware of how severe it was, but how like threatening and even just aggressive, like to the point where they're putting people's physical livelihood, like they're threatening them over something that they said about her. Like, it's insane. You know what I mean? Like, you would have thought these people were like threatening Nicki Minaj or something. That would be different. But they're just giving their views about some things that they may not like, or things that they're calling out. And these people are literally threatening the livelihood of other people, exposing their address, or hopefully it's not their real address. They're just doing all type of like really scary things. That's beyond just weird. That's actually really, really scary. So it's easy to go back on what you said, because it's like these people, and it may not always be that extreme. Maybe people are not actually threatening you. Hopefully not, right? It doesn't get that extreme. But even if they're just hostile, they may even be like, I've had times where I've said things on social media and off social media, and people have accused me of things that weren't true. And I'm like, I didn't say that. Or they like twist my words. I'm like, I didn't say that. Did you actually read? Like, I'll go back and read it like 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, how did she get that? Because usually, unfortunately, it's women that I have these experiences with. So I'm like, how did she say that? And I say it's unfortunate because as women, we always seem to have discord, like we really have to learn to not be always in discord. But that's another conversation for another day. But nevertheless, how did she get that? How did she read that? Because it didn't say that, like, I don't know. Maybe she's triggered by something, because I literally went back 4 or 5 times to read it. There were times when I've even asked people in my circle, like, can you read this? And they'll read it and they'll be like, I don't see it either, because maybe I'm missing something. So it's like people will literally also take what you said and twist it. Or maybe, like I said, maybe my energy was off, and maybe I'm like, okay, let me apologize about that. Or maybe I could have left that conversation out. Maybe that was poor taste. But to accuse me of things that aren't true, like accuse me of being jealous, or accuse me of being shady, or accuse me of being disrespectful, or accuse me of trying to, like do something to you when that wasn't even a thought on my mind. Like that wasn't even, you know what I mean? Like I'm confused. I'm actually taken back. I'm actually offended that you would even think that I am purposely trying to disrespect you. I'm purposely trying to throw shade. I'm purposely trying to say evil, bad things to you on purpose. Like if I have offended you, I apologize. Or if I talked about a certain topic that triggers you and made you upset, that wasn't my intentions. This is a controversial topic, but don't try to twist it and say I said things that I didn't say, or don't try to accuse me of purposely trying to say or do things against people when that wasn't even a thought on my mind, let alone an action, right? So people really, and I'm not saying people are always doing this intentionally, but these type of experiences really, if you're not careful, will have you going back on what you said and say, oh, maybe I should have just not said that, or maybe, I should just change my beliefs or whatever. It's like, no, you don't have to change your beliefs. Once again, if you need to apologize for maybe your tone or wrong timing or whatever it is that you feel led to apologize on, and apologize on that. But that doesn't mean that you have to go against what you believe and make people bully you or threaten you or guilt trip you or accuse you or criticize you of things that aren't true. And then now you're going back on what you said. No, stand on what you said, so that's just basically something else I want to add to, because that's something that I wish I never did. I wish that there were times when I was being accused of things, I stood and I was like, that's not what I said. And there were times when I did do that, but I wish I would have had done that more. So going forward, it's like, no, I'm going to stand on what I said. And like I said, if I need to apologize for something that I said or the tone or the energy, I will do that, by God's grace, because sometimes we have our ego too, but on both ends. But I'm not going to allow, by God's grace, somebody to bully me or accuse me or criticize me into going back on something that I said. If you want to take it personal and get offended by something that I said, like I said, in the context of, I think that people should be fully ready, not fully ready. There's nobody ever fully ready, but financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually ready before they have kids, and you want to take that offensive for whatever reason, then that's your choice. But I'm not going to go back on what I said. What I said is what I said. Now, if I said in the wrong tone or whatever, then I will apologize about that if I feel led to. But don't try to accuse me of, oh, you jealous of me, or you throwing shade, or you being hateful, when it's like, where are you getting these ideas from? I'm just speaking on something that I feel firmly about. And anybody who knows me personally knows that that's one of the things that I feel firmly about. You probably don't know that because you don't know me or you haven't taken time to get to know me. But anybody who knows me knows that I feel firmly about that when it comes to children. So why are you taking it personal? Anybody else taking it personal but you? Like, it's just kind of strange. So I think that, don't allow people, and I'm speaking for myself too, don't allow people to bully you or harass you or criticize and accuse you or whatever, their guilt trip you, whatever they're doing to make you go back on what it is that you said. You said what you said, and it is what it is. And people are going to take things personal regardless, sometimes, like I said, of how you say it too. So that's another thing. Like, you also can't please everybody. Yeah, so the last thing that I will say is to be careful of over-explaining yourself, because sometimes we can, like, over-explain. Same thing with apologizing too, like apologizing over and over again, but also like over explaining because we're trying to appease to people. We don't want to be seen in a negative light. Nobody wants to be, well, some people do like to be seen as a villain. And I think that's another conversation for another day, because I feel like that can happen to any of us, right? But when you really are trying to be seen in a positive light, it can be very frustrating when people keep accusing you and you've already explained and they keep doing that. And if you're not careful, you could fall into the trap of continuing to explain over and over again. And I was thinking that sometimes the very thing that can cause you sometimes to sit back and not speak up and be a people pleaser, and be too passive is the same thing sometimes that can cause you to over explain when people are upset with you, once again from a place of people pleasing. So we have to be careful that we're not feeling like we are, oh, I have to keep explaining because I don't want them to see me in this light. Oh, I gotta keep explaining because they keep criticizing me. Oh, they're not understanding me. They're not understanding me. Well, if you've already explained yourself and the person is still committed to that, then it doesn't matter how much more times you explain yourself. I've actually had times where I've been accused of things and I explained myself, and then I was then accused of, oh, you're probably just explaining yourself, or you're probably just going this hard because of X, Y, Z. So then I was accused of even more things. I said, wait a minute. I'm explaining myself to this extent because the things that you're saying isn't true. And now I'm being accused of something else because I'm explaining because I don't want to, this is not true. So sometimes that can actually cause you to seem like you're hiding something, or I don't know. You ever like notice that like sometimes people will be accused of things and they'll explain, or they make like a whole like live stream, and then people will say, oh, they're probably lying because why are they going this hard? They're probably hiding something. No, they're probably going that hard because they're being accused of things that aren't true and they're defending themselves. And you can't win, because then if you don't say anything, then they're going to be like, well, see, she didn't even make a video. He didn't even make a video. He didn't even say anything. So he probably doesn't even care, or he probably doesn't even want to address it because probably hiding something. So it's like, well, if he addresses it and he talks about it and he explains himself over and over because people keep saying stuff, then he's hiding something. He has an ulterior motive. If he doesn't say anything, he ignores it. Now, as he doesn't care, he's probably hiding something, so he doesn't want to talk about it. Which one is it? So that just goes to show that no matter what you do, people will still be offended, and they will still be see you in a certain light that they want to see you in, regardless of what you do. So if you feel led to speak on it, speak on it. If you don't feel led to speak on it, don't speak on it. But make sure you're doing it because you're led to do it, and you're doing it for a right reason, not to appease and to please other people. Because if you do it for that reason, you'll never win. Because some way, somehow, people are going to still find fault. Just like how they found fault and nitpicked everything that you said initially, or what you did, they're now finding fault to nitpick your explaining. They're finding fault to nitpick your apologizing. So it's like, wow, you can't win either way, because everything you do, and these people are nitpicking it. Sometimes people just don't like you. Sometimes people don't like you, or they have had issues with you in the past that they've never told you about. And this is like the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's like, wow, why is this person going this hard like this? Well, because they already never liked you to begin with. Or maybe somewhere down the line, they got offended or upset about other things that you were saying and doing, and they sat around, and now this last thing that you said or did really ticked them off. Because when you think about it, why is somebody so committed to seeing you in a negative light, even though you've already explained yourself, even though you've already apologized? And even the process of apologizing and explaining, they're nitpicking that too. That just goes to show there's something deeper going on there. That can't just be off of that one experience. It has to be something deeper than that. And some people, they're not going to tell you that they don't like you or that they have some deeper issues with you, but they do. And a lot of times you'll find out, because over time they'll start bringing up and saying other things, and you're like, where did all this other stuff come from? So then you start to say, oh, there's other stuff going on here. This is not just off of this one thing that I said and did. This is other stuff that's been bothering you too. You know what I mean? So this is not just a one thing, so people also sometimes do that as well. So, and I get it, because I've done it too, and it's an unhealthy way of going about things. It's something that we all need to be careful of, because that's very, very unhealthy to be dealing with people or watching them online or whatever, and you're harboring certain things within you that you're not addressing. And then when they do that one last thing, you're blowing up, you're hostile, you're criticizing, you're accusatory. And it's like, wow, like, why didn't you speak about these things sooner? Why didn't you address these things sooner within yourself? That's not fair that you're just unloading all of this hostility on somebody else who didn't even know that you even had an issue with them. You know what I mean? Like, that's really, you know what I mean? Like, we really have to work on that. But video is more so for you standing on what you said. I said what I said. It is what it is. I'm not going to over explain myself. And that's something that we need to work on going further into this year. So take care, and I hope that y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll come back with another video soon. Bye.